In the late 70s and early 80s, Star Trek ran a newspaper strip in the LA Times, and this is the collection of those newspaper strips, volume one at least. And I was a little nervous. This is the Eaglemoss Star Trek collection. Eaglemoss put together a list of every Star Trek comic ever, and they kind of they've varied it. So you skip from some IDW stuff to some Marvel comic stuff to these newspaper strips and back and forth. And so as each volume comes out, it's kind of a surprise as what you're going to get. I kind of wish they would have come out in order, just because like it would have been a little nicer just to read through certain things in order. I guess you can do that once you have the full collection, but I'm reading them in order of the volumes coming out. And this is volume 15. So I was a little nervous because the UK newspaper strips, when they were printed, actually were pretty unreadable in this format. And the reason for that is, as you can see, they kind of have a lot of gutter here because they're fitting these wider newspaper strips into a smaller space, so it was hard to read the UK lettering. Now, in this one, I didn't have that problem. This actually worked very well, and this is actually a fun newspaper strip to read. I was surprised. It takes place in the motion picture era, and they just go on some various different missions as they come across different aliens. Eventually, they have a deal with the Klingons that they end up having to fight off for some colonists and trade off some dilithium with, and then move on their merry way. So each storyline usually lasts, I think, about a month or two, and it actually, like, this comic doesn't a lot of strips recap a lot of what's going on. The only recaps they really do are from the Sundays to the next strip. They usually kind of do a reprint of what's going on at that point. There's an interesting storyline about Dr. McCoy. Somebody steals his face and tries to like ruin him. And they eventually figure out he's not acting like Dr. McCoy and come back. So this was a lot of fun. And everything in this felt like Star Trek. The characterizations were very good all the way around. And I very much enjoyed this as a book. So this is one where the Enterprise actually gets all the crew all gets captured, and the men get separated from the women, and both of them escape together and they're trying to rescue the other. It's really cute. And they eventually do escape, of course. Now, this volume starts, and the one thing I got to say about this volume, if you're doing a volume 1 and volume 2, you probably should have ended it where a storyline ended, but they actually start an additional storyline for like 2 pages, and then just close off the volume. So whoever did this probably should have put that in the second volume rather than like the 2 pages in this volume. I mean, at the end of the day, the second volume is printed, so it's not a big deal. But just for like people who want to read this, and then, when they eventually get to the next newspaper thing, they're going to forget the couple pages on here. So there is a little error in that, and just like the way it was formatted. But beyond that, this is great comics. I'm very surprised. And I've been pleasantly surprised with a lot of the Star Trek comics so far. But I had a lot of fun with this. And this is the Star Trek newspaper strips from the late 70s, early 80s. I'll call this an 8 out of 10. Leave a comment down below. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.